Shamalam, shamalam, this is Dr. Dobo Jam. We brought a little goodies for you to taste, so open up your mind, there'll be no waste. Shamalam, shamalam, this is Dr. Dobo Jam. No way to escape, we got a hold on you. You're in this ritual, black and blue. Baby. Shamalam, shamalam, this is Dr. Dobo Jam. We brought a little goodies for you to taste, so open up your mind, there'll be no waste. Shamalam, shamalam, this is Dr. Dobo Jam. No way to escape, we got a hold on you. You're in this ritual, black and blue. Talking to me, baby. Got to play, yeah. You gotta sing it all the night, all the night, all the night. That's what I say, that's alright. Yes, sirree, yes, sirree, yes, sirree. I really gotta love it, baby. Got to play it for me now. Got to, yeah, 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 yeah. Got to play, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we want to hear a little bit of organ touch, just a little bit of organ, baby, yeah, 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 yeah. You got to, 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 you got to.
Hello and welcome to Farming Academy. Today we are gonna talk a little bit about Farming Academy. What is Farming Academy? Then Dr. Carsten Petersen will come and talk about feeding before lambing. And I, Jeanette Johnson, will talk a little bit about the lambing season. Then we have some tips for lectures, and we'll have some questions and some answers for them. But to start up, we can tell you about Farming Academy. Farming Academy is a global online school of farming and life sciences. And we have content providers from many different places all around the world. And we have those content providers coming and talking about their special interests. They are doing lectures. And on Farming Academy's website, that is www.farmingacademy.eu, you can go in and find the classroom where you can sign up with a free user's account. And there you can see all the lectures we have. We are at the moment building up lectures because this is actually a pre-launch event. We're gonna launch in 2 months. And now we have some lectures that is already waiting for you out there. And today the topic is need for sheep. So we are gonna look a little bit on the sheep side of things. And now with Easter, now the lambs will come in a very, very short time. And before we come to the lambing season, then we have to make sure that we have fed the sheep correctly. And now Dr. Carsten Petersen will give us a little introduction to how to feed sheep prior to lambing. So now we'll give the floor to Dr. Carsten. And we have to ask Dr. Carsten to unmute and to share.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure here to be in this pre-launch of Farming Academy and give a little taste about some of the courses you will can experience here in Farming Academy. This is going to be one of many. Will it be come in the future here? So just give a little bit introduction here, and yes, as Ned said, this is Easter. This is a lot about sheep and lambs. This is a lot about people are connecting with. So, and yeah, a lot of you have already completed the lambing season this year, but there are still some part of the world is not happening yet. But it's always a very, very important time period here about the lambing for a successful sheep production. So this, just give a little bit, this is with the introduction of what our this little short presentation will be. So a little bit of background and strategy.
Maybe we should ask Carsten to share screen.
I thought I shared screen already.
Yes. Maybe. And it's the 1st of April, so it's April Fools. So, of course, we have planned that some technical stuff is not working today. That is pre-planned.
Can you see my slides? It's shown quickly on my screen.
Not yet. But maybe we should ask. We have one more from Farming Academy here. We have Sylvia. And maybe we should ask her. Can you see the slides?
No, unfortunately not. I'm sorry, I can't see the slides. And I'm happy to be here. This is so amazing to go live and to see what we can do together in this. And I don't know if we have any. I will have to check out on Facebook to see how many followers we have there and how many followers we have here in Zoom.
Still don't see my slides?
Sorry, we don't.
No, not yet.
Don't seem to work. I do not know why it won't work here, because it's shown quickly on my screen. Do you need to let me have control?
Let's see. You should be allowed to share screen. But you know, everybody who works in farming know that when we talk about the natural laws of the world, then before even gravity, then comes Murphy's Law that says everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And this is a little example that it worked a minute ago, but as soon as now you are sharing screen, here you go.
Let's show now.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry about that. This little advertise about feeding of the ewes up to lambing. It's a little bit background. Typical feeding strategy today of rumen, which is something so important when you talk about ruminants. The pH of a rumen is a little bit about that, absorption nutrients and recommendations. And at the end, a little bit about science to support this recommendation. So, really background which common see is that the ewe in the last 7 weeks prior lambing is really a key focus area for successful lamb production. This is because majority in that 7 weeks that's where the majority of the growth of the lambs is happening. Maybe up to about 70% of the growth of the lambs is taking place in that very short period of just 7 weeks there. So and the key to successful lamb production is of course about the size and how strong the lambs are at birth. This is one of the very key elements, a very strong elements to very successful lamb production. So if you just look at the energy requirement before lambing, so we use a very high energy requirement the last few weeks before lambing. And that's really because the lambs are really taking a lot of energy to grow. Still have a maintenance of energy for the ewe. So as mentioned, the growth of the unborn lambs. And for that reason why there's also the period where the ewes have the highest risk for ketosis before lambing. Ketosis means they are lacking energy. They just don't have enough energy to all the functions that need to happen to have the organs to function, like the heart, the lungs. All these things take a lot of energy. Need to grow the lambs, so that is really pull a big pull on the energy reserves for the ewe. And as mentioned, 70% of fetal growth had happened last third of pregnancy. So, talking about the rumen. One thing more important about we talk about the sheep and ewes and the rumen is that that's the late gestation period is that lambs will grow bigger, they take up a lot more space. So all the organs that the animal have is really only rumen that can decrease in size. Organs like the heart, liver, kidney, and lungs, they're just too critical for the animal. They can really become smaller. It's just not possible for the animal to survive. Say, oh, now the heart can only be half the size. That's just not possible for the ewe to survive on that, because they just need to pump so much blood, even more than normally. So it's not any, from a physiology and autonomy of a development of the animals, it's never taken place. These critical organs is always maintain the same size, whatever production period is in the animals. And this is going across all animal species actually. But some organs you can, and that's only basically the rumen you really can accept it for it to become smaller, whilst other organs is just not possible at all. And that's just the evolution of the animals that is happening there. So if you just take a look at the math here between the sheep and the cattle, so I would take an example here, ewe, where live weight 70 kilos, it's reasonable common and good size, standard size ewe for a lot of breeds. If you look at the cattle account for live weight be 700 kilos for a big breed, And a newborn lamb, a lot of them have aiming for 4 kilo. Newborn calf is aiming for 40 kilo. It's very standard values to aim for these ones. However, the sheep, you have 2 lambs, the cow only 1 calf. So for the cow and ewe in the adult's size is a factor 10 difference. However, between the offspring is only a factor 5. So this is also telling a lot about why the rumen has to become smaller, because it's just the offspring is just twice as much. It's only a factor 5 difference, but even the animal life add-on, the grown-up animals is a factor 10 difference. So it's relatively simple to actually see why the rumen is become a lot smaller in the ewe than in the cow, because this is a difference in between the adults and the unborn. It's not the same. Additionally, the ewe need more energy to grow 2 lambs, 3 or even 4. When in the cattle, you have occasionally 2, but it's not very common, or even 3 or 4, but extreme uncommon. Whilst in ewes, you have a lot more common, but 3 and 4 is a lot more common. Another thing is very critical about when you're feeding ruminants is that the pH in the rumen, which is really a key factor for the rumen function. It's all how it's based on, but it's the pH is so critical factor there. So in this green line, if you see that overeating, feeding some concentrate, we have a pH in rumen decline quite rapidly, and we come down to a pH where the cellulose digestion do not take place. Any silage, hay, roughage will contain a lot of cellulose, which has to be fermented in the rumen. So if it don't happen, the animal will not extract any energy for this cellulose, which is a major energy source for that. So you're actually compromising the energy absorption, that first the fermentation of it and later absorption of all this energy from cellulose when you're feeding a concentrate there. If you're feeding a high amount with getting a pH below 6. And opposite using a TMR, so total mixed ratio, the pH will keep much more constant, and you have a far higher energy utilization of the feed there, which is very beneficial. However, if you feed more than this figures illustrate you feeding twice a day, if you so fed 4 times a day, the drop will not come down into the blue area, which are the critical pH area. It'll stay above that, even used small amount and more rapidly. The fluctuation in the pH in room will be less, and that's very beneficial for maximize energy utilization. By you have a fermentation is much more consistent and constant. With a low pH, that's what we call acute acidosis, which is really unwanted situation. Another thing to relate to this is also, if you take this just illustration about how absorption of different nutrients happen, and see the red line, which is the carbohydrates, it's happened very rapidly after feeding, whilst protein is a little bit slower, and fat is very slow. It takes a lot longer time. And you really want to have a balance between the different nutrients to absorb at the same time as well, because the animal need all the nutrients at the same time. So if we have smaller peaks and we have more overlapping it's far better utilization of all the nutrients. That is really beneficial and very extreme critical when the demand for nutrients is highest. That means for the use just before lambing. So recommendations will be to feed the concentrate at least 3 to 4 times a day in the last 4 to 6 weeks prior lambing, but always feed according to the number of lambs and body condition. That is a critical thing to always know how many lambs it's carrying, and also the body condition, so you don't overfeed them and get very fat ewes that have really negative effect afterwards with poor milk production and difficult lambing, too big lambs as well, which give a difficult birth. So really do feeding more regularly, 3-4 times a day be better. So, and there's some science to support that. We know that from feeding sows at least 3 times a day in last week prior farrowing, that's the time the sows move into a farrowing pen. At having the same times, that is have a positive effect on farrowing length. It becomes shorter. It's very critical to get strong piglets. Number of stillborns, I mean dead piglets, is reduced, and colostrum intake is higher intake for the last born, because the colostrum production don't have a and there's a positive correlation between colostrum intake and animal performance post-weaning. That's it. I'll send it back to Jeanette.
Yeah, and I would like to have just a little discussion with Dr. Carsten Petersen here. And maybe if I can ask him to stop sharing screen and then share his beautiful face with the audience. Because I have some comments. We fully agree on the theory here. But I have been walking with a bucket through a flock of sheep, and I have ended up under the flock of sheep just because they saw a bucket. So when you're working with sheep, you also know that every time it's feeding time, you start a stampede, because the sheep, they are just focusing on the bucket, and they run for the food. And that could be almost an Olympic exercise once a day, and now you say 4 times a day. And can you give me a little hint? What is the difference between the sows and the sheep in that setting?
There's one big difference is that the sows are housed individual, so you don't have that. That's one thing. The other thing is that if you are get used to get feed more regularly, they are not as hungry. They're not extreme starving, because actually that situation they're probably even extreme hungry, and that will make them also stampede. If you do more regularly and you look after them, you have a lot more calm animals as well, because they're a lot more used to you. And I think it's really about your training your flock to be more calm. I think as a part of that, so they don't have this unwanted behavior, and that's really about managing them and really also really look after they get the right amount, all of them, not just the strong one, the fastest one, also one in the back, and that's really, really important. But I think it's really about also that reason to have a very long period, they get more used to it, and I think that will reduce this stampeding. That's it is expected.
Yes, and you're very right. But as a sheep farmer, the first thing you will think, oh my God, have you ever tried to carry a bucket with feed across a field with lambs or sheep? And especially, and some sheep in the flock, they seem to have some kind of effect like a hoover. They can almost suck in all the food while they are swimming across and stealing the food from everybody. But it is very, very important in your flock that if you're gonna do a group feeding with concentrate, then you have to divide the sheep into groups after size and body score, their condition. So you have the fat hoover sheep in one pen, and you have the small, sorry, can I get something to eat, sheep in another pen. But a very, very good solution that you should think of when you work with sheep is actually to provide them some kind of feed that is optimized for sheep. So it should not be concentrates. It should be mostly based on grass products, so you can have ad libitum feeding, and then you can, in the last stages, you can supply. And if you do it, you take the silage and you put the concentrate on top of it. It will also keep them busy for longer time, and they will get them to chew more. And when they're chewing, then the saliva would actually balance the drop in the pH. That was just the sheep farmer's point of view.
There's no doubt about it. Using a TMR is much better, so you have more uniform energy concentration with different type of feed you're providing. So you don't have some really poor quality straw, which we all have to take, we don't really want, and that's the reason we're not really prioritizing that, versus have something extremely high energy density. So it's a lot more about a more uniform component in all your feed, all the feed ingredients you're using. That itself will also help a lot to keep a lot more uniform flock of sheep. And of course, it's all about your dividing your groups, how many lambs you're expecting, and the body condition. So it's really about grouping in the right time to have a successful. That is so critical, because as you're saying, and another thing is how you use long trots. We know that for cattle it's not very, very good way. We know that if you have them, they have to take don't doing that, because the dominating one will chase the less dominant away. That happens, of course, with sheep as well. I mean, we're all animals.
Exactly. And but now I will steal the screen away just for a minute and then talk about the lambing, because when we have the sheep in a good condition, then we have the best condition to start the lambing season. And just a second, now I'll share my screen here. And if you see here, I've just stolen this slide from one of the presentation, Introduction to Lambing. We have part 1 and 2, but if we start with part 1, then you can see the lambing start actually with the reproduction. The lambing season in theory starts when you wean the lambs from the year before. And if we look at the reproduction with the sheep, you will remember that Carsten said that in the last period, the embryos will be growing most in the last part. And you can see here different times. It is days of gestation here. First we have something that would not even look like a sheep, but when we see at day 55, we already see a small sheep developed here. And if we look at a normal lambing, the first thing we will see the bag of water. And here you can see the clues. This is the perfect situation, because you can already see here it is the front, it's the front leg, so the nose would be just behind there, and then it's just to enjoy the miracle of birth. Drive the lamb out, and now you can see again the front of the hoofs are visible. Then you can see the front legs, and you can see the nose here. Now everything goes the right way. And then the lamb will be pushed out. You can see the head comes here between the legs that will be stretched out. And then there we have the lamb. And for each contraction, the lamb will move out. And even before the hind leg left the mother, you see the lamb starts to breathe, and it's almost born. And the lamb is born in a bag. It comes in a bag, and there's hormones here that when the sheep is licking the lamb dry, it will get her to bind with the lamb. And everybody who worked with sheep in lambing season, they know the special sounds that comes from both mother and lamb. They are already starting to connect. They are speaking to each other. And the lamb is born knowing the mother's voice because it had heard her from the inside. After the first one is born, then number 2 will come. If there's 2, of course. And now number 2 is halfway born. And now the twins are here. That is the perfect situation. Then she starts to lick the lambs, and she'll start to talk to them, and they'll start to respond to her. And then we're in there. And almost immediately the lambs will start to rise up and start to walk, and they will go and seek milk, and they will have their first meal as soon as possible. That is what we want to see. And here you can see we have the back here with the fluids that is opening up. It is lubricating and it's opening up. It's driving, so it makes room for the lamb. And in the perfect situation, the lamb will be placed like this. And you can see it's almost like a rocket on the way out. And that is really, really, really the perfect situation and what we see most of the times. But if the sheep is very fat, we will have a problem here, because then the room, there will be very narrow. It will be harder because it will limit the space. And that can get, when you see here, when the hooves and the nose are coming through, if there's less room, then the nose can stop, and then we have a problem. Again here you can see, if there is enough room, then the head will start to dilate the birth canal, so it will make room for the lamb to get out. But a very fat sheep will have less space, and that's a problem. And if we have the problem, what are we gonna do then? Then we have to find out what is the problem and how can we fix it. And it's very important to think and feel. And when I say feel, it's very important, if you have to examine, if you have to go in with the hand, that you can feel with the fingers, with the fingertips. You have to feel, are we dealing with a hind leg or front leg? And the way to feel that is by logic. Go up to the abdominal and see what way does the leg bend, because that'll tell you if it's front or hind leg. And it sounds so logical, and it's no problem when you look at this drawing. But when you are out 3 o'clock at night and trying to get a lamb out, then it can be very frustrating and it's easy to panic. So it's good to know, follow the legs and the abdomen and see what way. When are there problems, you can almost calculate when it's good time and when it's taking too long time. And we have, from you see the water bubble, 30 minutes. From the sheep goes into serious labor, and then you should calculate 20 to 30 minutes. Then the lamb should be born. And from the lamb is born to it stands, 10 to 20 minutes. From birth to the first feed, 30 minutes. From the first lamb is born to the second lamb, 30 minutes. But then we have the afterbirth. It needs to release, because that is a direct way for bacteria to get into the sheep, and it keep the window of time closed as much as we can, so it's as short as possible. So it's important to just check, did she release the afterbirth? It should be released 30 minutes after birth, up to 8 hours. After that, it's serious business. You have to react on it. But all that we have in detail in the lectures. It's just a presentation of what you really need to know, and we'll show you how to get more information here. And again, when we're talking about what way the legs are bending, look at this situation, helter skelter. We have mix of lamb's legs, because of course you cannot see this. You can only feel it with your fingertips, and you can feel you have a leg there, and you have two more there. And if you have to help the lamb out, it's very important that you have the right set of legs, so you don't draw two lambs at once, because there's not room for that. So it's important to know what you're doing, and it would make it much easier to have great success. And you can also see here, we have some illustrations of what is actually happening on the inside, and it can be good to get that image in your head when you're standing there and can only feel a little. So here we have some instructions on how to get them out. And sometimes it feels like lambing is almost like an Olympic event. When we have a lecture on Farming Academy, we make sure to make a list of what kind of literature, what sources of information did we use for the lectures, and this is a very good example. For example, the brilliant picture, the drawing I showed before, it's from A Little Bit of Nonsense, and that is just brilliant. I know this person. And when we end the lecture, we will also have a presentation of who did the lecture and what is the background. For instance, this is just about myself, Jeanette Johnson. I'm extremely old. I have an education as I have a master in animal science, and my role in Farming Academy, and you can see my email here and my special interest. We'll do that at the end of every lecture on Farming Academy, so you know how to reach the lecturer. And we have some ideas for lectures you could start with, and if I just stop sharing here, I can actually take you on a little journey to Farming Academy. Just a second. Then I can share something else. Just a moment. If we go here. here is the Farming Academy website and farmingacademy.eu. There you can click on the classroom and sometimes the internet is fast, sometimes it's a little slower, like now. Very slow when you have to share it, sending. I'm very impatient. The classroom. You see the lectures and doing the lectures. When you log in, the first thing you'll make those are for free. So no, you can account, and then you can go the lectures we have available. When the internet down like this, I can try to stop sharing and sharing again. That'll maybe do the trick. Give me a second. Let's see if we can fix it. No, it's gonna take a little. Hello? Maybe we should invite Dr. Carsten to unmute and come back to us. Hello, Carsten.
Yeah, I'm
there
back
you
again.
Are. Can you do it when I find some internet? You could do a quick presentation of who you actually are.
Just a little bit background about me. I have studied animal science at University of Copenhagen. I did my BS and MS, and I also graduated my PhD from University of Copenhagen. However, I did my PhD at what is that time we call Research Center Forum, which is today is part of Aarhus University. All is in Denmark. And my background is nutrition, and I work with all animal species, so both monogastrics and ruminants, and that is my interest there. And my first lectures I put on Farming Academy is about the basic information about nutrition, what are the different nutrients and how to analyze them, and why animals need different nutrients, what is important there, and there'll come more presentation into this area about requirement for different nutrients for each different species. There'll also be a number of different other presentation. Current working on right now is called about Maillard reaction, which is all about processing feed ingredients and overheating, and how it have an impact on nutrition value of different ingredients.
And I hope I had success by finding a little piece of internet again. So here are, when you click on the classroom on Farming Academy, you'll come to this lovely picture. Learner's account, and then you can go in and get a lot of information. But one of the informations that is very, very important is the lectures. Because here you can choose from the lectures that are already online, and a lot of more are coming. And there's some few in the Scandinavian, mostly about sheep. And then I'm just scrolling down to see. There you see Dr. Carsten. There's 2 lectures here you could choose. And those are the 2 lectures that would be the best way to start with feeding animals in general, or human beings for that matter. And lectures that I used a few slides from today. And you can go in under Ask Instructors. You can see a list of instructors. You can see some of the lovely people working in Farming Academy. And if you pay attention, a lot of things will happen here in the next couple of weeks, because we have a lot of new content providers, very exciting people who will be joining us, and they will be listed here. And you can also see the way to contact everybody working at Farming Academy. And you can get more information of the vision of Farming Academy, and yeah, there's so much good stuff here. So I hope you'll come in and look a little. And now we'll start to the other presentation. If it's working, of course it would be working. But that was the tips for lectures. And now we have, do we have any questions? We can ask Sylvia to join us and tell us. Do you have any questions that for Carsten or I?
Hello. It's been so nice to hear you and to listen to your great presentations.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're very clear.
Good.
Yes. And we can see you.
Oh, that's great.
And you look good.
Sometimes your sound is going down from it, and that's a pity. But I could hear Kirsten when he's made his presentation very clear. So, and it's been great pictures, and you've really been showing us a good presentation about the sheep production, about feeding, and how we get more lambs to the world. That's been great. I have a question about the website, and if it's possible to if someone wants to provide any courses themselves, is it possible to be one of you, or is it possible to just be a customer?
We are absolutely welcoming everybody who think they have something good information to share with us and they want to become a content provider. It is just to contact us, and all the information is actually online on how to find us, and we can take a little talk about what does it mean to be a content provider, and we can talk about what does it mean to give some content and having an editor. It could be, maybe it will be Dr. Carsten, that's the editor, and he will just go in and check that everything is real science. And of course it will be good, and anybody who needs help making the lectures, we are here to help them also. So yes, very welcome.
That feels great. So if you're interested in farming, we have been talking a lot about sheep now, and I can understand that both of you are in animal science. So what about all the other subjects that are in farming? If someone is interested in cereal production or anything
then
else?
People just have to keep coming back to the website over the next 8-10 weeks. We have a lot of new content providers putting up a lot of new information. There's coming a lot of lectures on different topics, and it is just to pay attention, come in and look,
That's
And if you make a user's account, a learner's account, you can also get information. We are gonna bring out, we're gonna use the blog function, and we're gonna come up with a lot of information. And we are gonna do some presentations of the content providers. And every week this time, we will do a live stream, and we take in some content providers to present their topics.
Oh, that's great. So Farming Academy will cover all kind of subjects within farming interests. That's
Yes,
great.
and all with life sciences also, and everything related to running a farm and actually farming. And most of life is actually connected to farming.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's amazing. It's amazing. So, I've understood that this is a global thing. So how many countries are represented or in the way into it? I've heard of Africa.
Yeah, we have something to do with Africa. Dr. Carsten has been writing to somebody in America. What was the name, Carsten?
We are in contact with a number of different providers also to get some sponsorship to make a lot more courses. And so this is a work in progress. And so it's really about be a global platform for everybody in the world. And of course, Africa is still that part of the world where it's most farmers. So it's a very, very great need there, but also a lot of other places in the world. So it's going from farmers, but also the people who support the farm industry as well. The courses will also be relevant for them as well. So it's not, so it's the whole chain in the food productions we aim to cover with the courses on Farm Academy with time. However, if you have a specific course you really need now, get in contact and we'll do what we can to provide that course as soon as possible.
And that's great.
And the guy in America, or the foundation in America, we had sent a little letter. Is we asked Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help us to help the poorest farmers in Africa by providing them with free education, and hopefully to make a real big difference for them. And we are hoping that we can get some help there, but otherwise there's always next year. And we will not forget the farmers. We have made so many connections already, but we have a special live stream later that will go into deep in what is happening there and what's happening in Africa, because a lot of things is happening in Africa.
That's great. So the topic of the next week, what do we have prepared for?
Yeah, that will be posted within a few days. That will be
And that's
posted
great.
within a few
I'm
days.
so curious. So stay tuned in the social medias and get yourself a profile at our Farming Academy Loanwords on the website, and it's for free, so you can just have that profile done, and then you can surf around and get all the information you need. So that's great. I will be there.
That was nice. And I hope we'll get a lot of people coming in and getting a lot of inspiration for what you could do and what you could use the Easter holidays for, spring break. You can always take a few lectures on farming. But as you see, the next live stream is a week away. I personally want to thank Dr. Carsten Petersen for joining, and Sylvia for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Big pleasure.
And actually, we have had some followers on Facebook.
And yeah, we have. we have. But thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again next time.
And see you next week.
And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.